What is happening, good people? We are here to record Macro Dirt Podcast number 48 with my man, the Sultan of Sedentary, Jared Dillian.
What's up, you fucking jagoff?
Oh, it's so fun to start the day with a good laugh, bro. I'm glad I got you. How you doing?
Good. I'm actually I caught up on sleep last night. I had a sick cat 2 nights ago, and I was out at the emergency vet until like 12:30 at night. So
Man, that's the worst. I'm sorry to hear that.
Yep.
All right. I'm glad you're
She's
back
gonna
in
be
business.
good. She's gonna be good.
Okay. That's what's most important. Glad she's good. We're going to talk extensively about the Cornell Lacrosse Championship
Yes.
and study break. I wrote a super cool study break this morning about it, and I'm getting rave reviews from the Cornell Lacrosse family, so it feels really good. But let's get right into markets. JD, I'm going to give. Yeah, go ahead. You start. Go.
Yeah. So this is an important lesson for all traders. You don't have to have an opinion on everything all the time, right? Like me with stocks right now, I don't have an opinion. I'm not long, I'm not short. I'm not in a hurry to put a position on. I'm waiting for the chart to give me the answers. I don't have to have an opinion. I can be flat. You don't have to have a position on all the time. Same thing with bonds. I'm flat just about everything at this point. Like I'm just flat. And like you conserve capital. Like the last thing you want to do is get nicked on a position that you have low conviction on. Like you don't want to lose money on something that you have low conviction on. You're like, well, that was stupid. Like, why did I have that trade on? And you lost like 2% on it, So
Jared, you preached a lot of wisdom right there, so we got to open it up a little bit. Going backwards, though, I want to touch on that. We had a rule at Goldman Sachs on the desk: no casual positions. You were either in it because you put the thing on and you had an expectation of a certain outcome, or it was off your pad. Because I've had 1,000 ounces of palladium left on my pad, cost me $25,000 in P&L in a day, and that is like inexcusable.
yeah,
Right. So there's something to be said for that. It's about the rigor of running a tight ship. And then going backwards, having no opinion. For some contrast, I'm sitting at the high stakes table right now in the equity market. I'm pretty loaded to the gills. I've got a lot of risk on, and it's because I believe in what's going on, but the market is speaking to me, so I'm trading it. There are other times that I'm sitting on my hands waiting for something to happen, and that's very liberating as a trader. There's nothing better than sitting it out and waiting and doing nothing for days and having dry powder and having something unfold before you that you're like, well, here's a high probability opportunity, right? So there's nothing better than that, and let's make sure our readers take something home from that. So let me give you my spiel here on stocks. I kind of like that we got a boost from the confidence number yesterday. It was pretty clear that despite May's volatility, that consumer confidence was better than expected. It was very strong at 98 versus 87 expectations, and the market reversed all of last week's gains. That speaks to me. It also speaks to me because it made it back out of what I called the danger zone that the S&P was consolidating in between, I don't know, it was like between 5,800 and 5,900, and we're kind of back out the top side of that again. So we erased the gains from last week. And now I think if you're short with a little tariff tussle behind us and NVIDIA earnings ahead of us, I think you might be headed for a VIX melt into the weekend of a short week. So that's one of my thoughts that I'm having, and it makes me bullish. The market's holding in here exactly where it has to, and none of the other markets are causing any kind of alarm. That's what I like. Bonds are slowly migrating off of the lows. The dollar is meandering at the low of the range. Crude oil is 60 bid at 65, can't figure out which way it's going. And the stock market is like, we can perform under those conditions. Wouldn't you say?
Man, I mean, I wouldn't be short. I would rather scrape the back of my thighs with a cheese grater than be short stocks, I mean,
I literally did that actual visual, and it was dark. It was dark. It was bloody and hairy, and I don't want to discuss it anymore. But that's what a writer will do to you.
I'm long-term bearish. I'm long-term bearish. When I say long-term, I mean like the fall, like the end of the summer, the fall. So I'm going to be looking for a spot to lay out a short again. but not with the VIX at 19. We need to get the VIX down to like 15 or 16, maybe lower. Need to get S&P up to 6,200 or so. And yeah, I'm just waiting.
Do you know what I like about what you're doing now? You're unpacking other wisdom. And that is, trade your levels, be patient, know when there are levels that don't want to participate, right? You just made it very clear and you enunciated it the way that I'm thinking about it. The VIX, it's at 19, but it's not a trade until it's at 15.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not like, okay, I mean, I'll be interested in selling stocks when the VIX is at 15. And it's like here, it's not at 25, so there's no alarm, and it ain't at 15, we're not celebrating. So for me, that's green light go, man. That's like indecision. That's okay for stocks. So I totally understand that thought. And at the same time, I'm still cheering for my book because I hope it works out for me. I've got the S&P, social media, gold miners, Bitcoin. I've got a lot of risk on the pad right now, and it feels right.
We got to talk about
what?
We got to talk about the platinum breakout.
Oh, good point. Good point. Hit it.
I mean, really not a lot to say. I mean, it's funny because platinum has been objectively cheap for years. Platinum has been cheap for a really long time, and it's kind of hard not to be bullish platinum at these levels, but you needed a technical signal, and it ripped $50 in a day and had follow through and keeps following through. And now you got people piling in, and now you've got like the commodity guys writing research pieces on it. Like, there's some reflexivity in motion here. I'm long, bought some of the ETF. So yeah, I think it's a solid breakout.
Smart that you pointed that out. Smarter trading minds than me, namely Alyosha, who is John Johnston, writes under the name Alyosha, thinks that this could be China buying platinum in the event that they don't want to just chase gold up a flagpole. There could be merit to that, absolutely. Chart does look great, and that can be your trade. I'm not going to touch the PGM group at all, but basically because I'm neck deep in equities right now. But the breakout does look good. I can root for that trade, absolutely. And let's just be sure to keep a close gauge on sentiment, because if my aunt starts calling me up asking me about platinum, we're going to have a problem. Other than that, what do you think about Bitcoin? Anything?
God, it looks good. So just to rewind a little bit, in my newsletter in the Daily Dirt app back about like 3 or 4 months ago, I was bullish on crypto and I wanted to buy BITW. Now, BITW is basically the closest thing we have to a crypto index fund. It's like the top 10 tokens, right? But the problem is it's a closed-end fund, right? Because under Gensler, the SEC would not approve a conversion into an ETF. So it's got a super high expense ratio, like 2% or something like that. And it trades at a slight discount, and it's a closed-end fund, and it's a pain in the ass. So I said, I don't want to deal with it. What I should have done was just bought Bitcoin, right? But I didn't do that. And here we are like 4 months later, and Bitcoin is 50% higher. So I got bogged down and screwing around with BITW, and I just didn't buy it. So
okay, I understand that. I've got it on the pad because it basically scratched out one of my blue sky breakouts where it just regained all the moving averages, and it seemed like it had a good narrative behind it, and it basically being in the Japan bond market blowing up. And I kind of went with it, and we've got quite a few percent in the money now, and hoping that we can sail on from here, because man, I do feel like it is trading like something that is percolating to go through the old highs and trend and find its new range. And I think that range, the new range, when we break away from 110, should be 110 bid at 150 or something like that. So we'll see what the catalyst is to get it through the top of the range. And I'm hoping it's something that comes, within the next couple of weeks, where there may be some macro disturbance that shoots it up through there, because I do have an egg timer on that position too. So we'll see. Any thoughts on NVIDIA reporting tonight at $135 per share?
No, I don't.
No, me neither. I did a quick scan today, and I mean, it's totally heavy overweight buys. There's like 60 something buys. There's like 9 holds and like 1 sell on it. But the one thing that's interesting is that it's kind of at the median price of the price targets that a lot of analysts have on it. So it's not exactly something that everybody is looking up expecting for higher number.
The only thing I would say is with overall, I mean, with Nvidia, you have to consider Nvidia, but you also have to consider overall sentiment.
Mm,
And right now, overall sentiment, we're in the climbing a wall of worry stage.
yeah.
So I don't think Nvidia is going to be down 10% today. I don't. I think the worst case scenario is down like 2 or 3%. And I think you do have a possibility of a beat. So
Yeah. So we'll see. You know, the biggest tell is going to be how it responds to what news, right? If we get good news and it rallies, that'll be a new dynamic. If we get good news and it sells off, that will be a sign of caution to me as an equity bull, because you don't want big tech stocks selling off on good news. And I'll probably have to temper my view after that. So I'm pretty keyed in on what happens to NVIDIA today. Anything in the metals markets, JD? Besides, oh no, we talked about platinum. I'm sorry, in FX or anything, bonds, any
yeah,
views?
I'm still fighting this dollar trade. I'm still
Yeah.
long playing for a bounce, and I'm in a fight with the market, and it doesn't feel good. But I do think it's going to work. So I mean, I've been saying this for like the last 6 weeks, and I'm still fighting it. So
Well, it's like I said, it's meandering at the bottom of the range, not breaking down. And what you could have is a big short position build up down here that could get plucked at any given moment. So I'm rooting for you. I don't have any axe to grind whatsoever. Only in that gold is kind of amazing. That's why I wanted to touch on metals again. Gold is amazing me because it is making lower highs, but staying right in the middle of the range around 3,300, right between like 3,100, 3,400, like that. It's going to be a shit or get off the pot moment for gold soon. It's going to either break down into the moving averages or it's going to have to leg up through 3,500 with some chutzpah, or this is going to be a toppy level again. So that's how I'm looking at gold. You want to go off markets, JD? You want to talk about the champions?
yeah, do it.
Dude, one of the greatest seasons that I've ever witnessed. Like, I'm a sports fan and people ask me like what my favorite teams are. And we're asking me about the Giants and the Yankees and the Knicks. And like, the reality is I'm really only a fan of Cornell Lacrosse, because that's the team that I root for year in and year out, and know the players of, and know the parents, and know the program. And winning that championship, watching them win on Monday, was one of the most fulfilling things that I've experienced in a while. There's so many backstories that it's unbelievable. We beat the University of Maryland. Our old coach that coached forever for 30 years, 40 years at Cornell, Richie Moran, went to the University of Maryland, right? The coach of the University of Maryland's team was a teammate of mine at Cornell, John Tillman. So he's a Cornell graduate playing against Cornell. Cornell's coach is the youngest coach in college lacrosse to win a national championship. He's a Cornell alum, All-American from 2015, Connor Busick, who just lost in the national championship in 2022 to Maryland, who had a perfect season that year. So seeing them come back 2 years later, that was setting the table for this victory. They came back 2 years later. They were all business. They beat Richmond in the quarterfinals at Hofstra. They beat who did they play after that? Oh, they beat Penn State in the semifinals and then Maryland in the finals. And the Cornell family is really just pizzazzed that this went on. You know what I mean? It's a really special thing to be a part of. And if you've ever been at one of those games, man, like, that is one of the greatest things ever. I wasn't able to be at the Final Four this year, but being at that event is literally one of my favorite events in all of sports, better than any pro sport or anything like that, because they're playing for all the marbles. They're playing for the name on the front of the jersey. And there's always unbelievable stories like that. Oh, and another backstory, Cornell's leading scorer and the leading scorer in lacrosse this year, CJ Kirst, set the all-time goal record and tied the single-season goal record with 6 goals in the final game.
Wow.
Right? So this is heavy drama stuff. If I got a wow out of you, it must be really blowing your hair back. So that's really cool shit. What else can we talk about after bringing in a tremendous Cornell victory, JD? What's going on? Rule 62, success and spirituality. What comes to mind, and what in God's green earth are you doing writing a book about spirituality?
Believe it or not, man, I am a very spiritual person. I really am.
How so?
I mean, not to get too personal on the macro dirt.
No, I don't want to get too personal,
but in 2003, I was in a really tough spot. Like, emotionally, I was in a really tough spot. And the whole time I was working at Lehman, I was an emotional disaster. I was a wreck. I had a spiritual disturbance. And it has taken me almost 20 years to recover from that. But like a lot of things in life, like getting better spiritually and emotionally is not something that just happens endogenously. Like, you have to work at it. You have to work at it. It takes a lot of effort. So really, like, this book, it's a collection of essays. There's 79 essays in here, meditations on success and spirituality. This is about my journey over the last 17 years. And it's not strictly about spirituality. There's also, a lot of stuff about being successful at work and financially successful and stuff like that. So this is really, at essence, about being a better person,
Love it. I firmly believe in it. And you bring something up that's really important to me. And, you just mentioned your mental and emotional health. And, as a Gen Xer, that is something that was not discussed in my childhood, in my young adult life, in any part of my life. Was anybody coming to me saying, you got to look after your noggin, right? This is important here. Just kind of like, how are you position yourself in the world? How are you feeling? And it takes forever. Like you said, it's taken you 20 years to recover. And like, I feel like over time, over the last 20 years, my God, I've gotten so much closer with God that like my family calls me a holy roller. But it's true, because I do believe, and I do believe that there's a spirituality here on earth around us, and that the things that you do affect that. So it all comes together. And I wish it was something that, I try to bring it up to my son, because I think it's important for the next generation to hear. I mean, they get it in this world of DEI and stuff like that, but paying attention to your own mental health is a full-time job.
Yeah.
And I don't think many people don't realize that.
Well, this comes out on June 24th.
Awesome.
Tuesday, June 24th. You can pre-order the ebook now. So the ebook is up on Kindle. We'll put the link in the show notes. So you can pre-order the ebook, but the physical book, you have to wait until June 24th. So
got it. Very good. Awesome, man. I tell you, that feels like a good play to end up on a crisp Macro Dirt podcast number 48. Would you say?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, just to do a quick recap, you're biding your time in stocks. You're still bullish the dollar. I'm bullish stocks, looking for follow through on the upside here. We've got a Cornell Lacrosse championship and a new book coming out for JD. Hasta la vagina, everybody.
Hasta la vagina.